Yo, yo, yo. What's up, golf addicts? My name is Joe Idoni at Tour Picks on Twitter. Welcome to the Tour Junkies YouTube channel where we are going to preview this week's LIV DC event 1 week after a LIV player goes and takes down the PGA Championship. Was great to see the return, the king back on the throne as Brooks Koepka was able to have a phenomenal performance. I broke some of it down in my show earlier this week. Preferred lines, go and check that out. But fantastic stuff, not only on Sunday, but throughout the week from Brooks Koepka. He made 0 double bogeys on one of the most difficult tests in terms of PGA Championship history that we've seen in the last however many years. He was fantastic. He was first in the week in birdies made as well. He made 0 doubles. His distance control was absolutely some of the most clutch that I have ever seen in a major championship. I talked about it, but basically the stretch of the final 5 holes. So he gets to the 14 tee, right? He's got a 1-stroke lead at this point after he had to hole a clutch par putt on the par 5 the hole before. 320-yard par 4. Brooks hits it 319 yards to the green. Easy birdie for him there. Then on 16, after all that ensues with Victor Hovland, he's got like 168 out of the right rough. He hits it 167. Birdie there, throat step in time. Like that's when you absolutely close the door on a major championship. And that was clutch. And then obviously on 18, right? Difficult closing hole. You can't make double. He gets up there and pipes a drive down the right-hand side past the bunkers. 178 approach distance to the hole. He hit a 178-yard shot. Left it a little bit right, but on the correct side. Nearly hold a putt to go -10 and break all the people's tickets who bet the under 9.5. But such an exciting finish. I think there were a couple of other obviously notable LIV standouts in the field. Bryson looks back. Bryson is popular this week. More on that later in a couple of minutes. But he had a fantastic week. I think that he looks very healthy. I think that his form is trending. The iron play is, we're seeing a significant uptick as well in that area for Mr. DeChambeau. And then Cam Smith. Really just class performance. 6 under, I believe, on Sunday, was able to get himself inside the top 10 when he didn't have much working his way earlier in the week. Things are trending in an absolutely positive direction for Cameron Smith. I think that if you like the way things are trending and you want to take a peek ahead to the next couple of majors, now's the time to do so. There are 30, 35 to 1s out there in the U.S. Open. There are very much similar prices. I believe a slightly lower for him to defend at the Open Championship, but he's back to being an ultra clutch performer with the putter. He's back to getting magical stuff around the greens, and he's back to probably, in my opinion, being one of the top 5 players in the world right now. A lot of good things for LIV are happening. I think one of the more important ones that I want to touch on in the beginning is a notion that many carried that these players were going to be ill prepared for the 4 major championships due to the fact that they're playing on the LIV Golf Tour, due to the fact that it's potentially less competitive in a sense, less, I don't know the right word to put here, but I think the word that I'm looking for is like less intense to a degree, and not exhibition golf, but that is the opinion that many people still hold of the LIV Tour, and that you're better prepared week to week grinding it out on the PGA Tour than out there in shorts with music playing with only 48 guys in the field. The other thing is 3 rounds. Like, that was the thing with Brooks. And I heard it from guys that I play with it. Like, can you play 4 rounds anymore? I think they've answered a lot of those questions. I don't think they're real to begin with. I don't think that they can hold any weight any longer. These guys are prepared. There was a tweet earlier today which sort of analyzed the difficulty of the golf courses that they are playing, which has gotten a lot of criticism, versus the slope and difficulty rating of the PGA Tour setup. And they're pretty close. I didn't think that the last one they played in Tulsa was as difficult as they had expected it. But the 18, like the PGA Tour was at TPC Craig Ranch that week. They were in Mexico the week before, or the week before Quail. So they play easy setups too. Orlando, I don't think was a great look for them. I imagine they would get out of that into another stop in Florida moving forward. But things are continuing to evolve. We have a nice course set up this week for guys kind of in to be completely frank and open and honest with you guys, a strange week for them to hold an event, in my opinion. I do think that their biggest weeks in terms of viewership are not going to be on the heels of majors, even though, and this is kind of contrary because Brooks had such a fantastic week. So you would think that maybe potentially they would see a lot more eyeballs in terms of viewership and excitement level this week. I think it's kind of the opposite. I think that their biggest weeks are going to be the week before majors because the eyeballs in PGA Tour instances, in live instances, a lot of times are coming from the most hardcore fans, and they're the gamblers. They're us. They're the degens. They're looking for an edge, and they want to catch a glimpse potentially of a player the week before. The week before they get to a major championship. So I think that those weeks are going to be their biggest weeks of the year. But we'll see, and we'll kind of assess what we've got this week. I'm going to bring up some stuff on the golf course here now. Give me just a moment as I share my other window here. Okay. Here's the scorecard. I don't know why this is giving me a little bit of a delay here. Bear with me one moment, guys. Okay, here we go. LIV DC, Trump National Golf Club looks astonishingly beautiful as just Trump National down here in Florida. Obviously, the LIV Tour has close connections with the Don, so that's probably why they're here. But roughly around 7,400 yards this week. As you can see, a par 72, so it's a par 37 on the front, which is kind of interesting. So you have the par fives in there, but you really just have the singular par three. Both par fives, I mean, 578 and 583 on the front are going to be reachable. Those are obviously going to be birdie holes. The par three is 202, which is very long. The ninth hole is a drivable 310-yard par four. So opportunities to absolutely post a score on the front. Now you get to the back nine, and in my opinion, things get much more difficult. So you still have the two par fives, but you also have three long, difficult par threes in the mix. 17 is tough, 232, and 15 is tough, 210. You open on the 10th hole, which is 181, which is surrounded by water as well. Obviously, not an easy hole on the right in front of a 482-yard par four. The par fours, or the par fives, excuse me, are a little bit longer on the back nine as well. I think this is, LIV has the tendency. I wish they would put out a little bit more information in terms of like a groundskeeper's report card in terms of bunkers and grass types and all that. I'm sure it's findable if you dig hard enough, but they don't make it necessarily easy to find. I wanted to go over a little bit of some stat stuff as well from what I've seen from LIV thus far. So a lot of it, guys, is interesting because they've got limited data, but where you do have stuff, and what I've paid attention to a ton and I think is the most predictive, is the greens and reg stuff. Mito's been awesome, hitting nearly 78% of his greens through 18 rounds, through 6 events thus far on the LIV Tour. 78% of your greens hit is quite unbelievable. Charles Howe was great early. This is where I really started to see the trend in Brooks Koepka take an extreme turn. When he starts flushing his irons and the distance control gets there, that's when he's ready for liftoff. This is what kind of put me on him at LIV Orlando. Speaking of which, I have to mention we did hit, obviously, the winner in Tulsa. So through 6 events this season, we've got 2 winners. We had DJ at 16-1. We had Brooks at 40-1. Listen, this is the method. This is the method you take when betting LIV. You look for elite players whose number tends to drift because they can pop at any given moment. Those are two of the top 3 players on the LIV Tour. Those are guys who come into major championships 20 to 1, 25 to 1. And all of a sudden you're getting huge numbers. 16 to 1 on DJ is huge. 40 to 1 on Brooks is massive. It's insane to even think that he just played a PGA championship at 20 to 1 and he was 40 to 1 to win LIV Orlando nearly a month prior. Wild stuff, but this is what initially sort of put me on here. So Brendan Steele's numbers have been solid. Jason Kokrak's numbers have been solid. Sergio Garcia just qualified for the U.S. Open the other day. He's hitting 74% of greens. So this is one that I tend to look at. Another one that I'm putting a little bit more emphasis, I believe, on is this week. Although the fairways are pretty wide, I don't think guys will have a huge problem. There's a lot of water out there. Abe Answer and Hendrik Stenson leading in sort of fairways hit, and Louis is really no surprise there. Taylor Gooch was a little surprising to me. Bubba Watson not trending too well, hitting nearly 67% of fairways as well is a good sign for someone like Bubba who normally sprays it. Mark Leishman up there was a bit of a surprise to me. So these are the year-to-date leaders in fairways hit through LIV Golf Tulsa. The last one, and maybe the most important one. This is what will forecast and prognosticate a win more than anything, in my opinion. Birdies. Like, guys making birdies obtain confidence. And when you obtain confidence and you think that putts are going to start to go in and you've got a lot of threes on your scorecard, you can continue that. Look at the top 3. No real surprise there. The 3 best players are the 3 guys that lead in birdies. And what happens the one week when they avoid a bad lie double, when they avoid a water ball and they start turning bogeys into pars, is they win. These 3 are the 3 best players. I think very interestingly, Peter Uihlein is only 1 birdie behind them. I think that he's a name to look out for, and more on that sort of later. And then Jason Kokrak rounds out the top 5. All right, let's get into the odds board. Let's talk about some guys. Your favorite this week. Bit of a surprise, I must say. I mean, the player behind him just won the PGA Championship, and the player behind him just won the last LIV event. Good reason to fade them. So Brooks is kind of on the world party tour. Who can blame him, right? Went to the Panthers game, went to the Heat game, I think back to the Panthers game tonight on Wednesday, and then flying up there. I can't imagine it's going to be a great performance out of him this week. He alluded to this himself when he was on Pardon My Take after winning the PGA, that not sure what to expect in DC. If this was the PGA Tour, he would most certainly withdraw. That's not an option here. I don't think he's bettable. He's playing awesome. I love him at the next 2 majors. Give me him in another LIV event or 2 throughout the rest of the season. This ain't that spot. I'm betting Cam Smith. I don't love the price, but I think that he's going to win this tournament, in which case I should be willing to assume an 8 to 1. Now, you have to look at this with a little bit of perspective. There's 48 guys in this field. If I'm sort of writing Brooks off, how many guys are up there that I really think are as good and quality as players as Cam Smith? I'd maybe argue 5 or 6. The bottom, obviously, we know drops off substantially on the LIV Tour, and the final maybe 20 guys don't have a chance at all, in my opinion. So he's got to beat 28 guys. 26 of them he's better than. The other one he's more prepared and going to come in likely better form with better preparation this week then. He's playing fantastic. And what I mean by look at it with some perspective and relativity, Scotty Scheffler's playing great. Scotty Scheffler's got some good players to go against this week. He's 4.5 to 1. Would you rather have Cam Smith to win LIV DC or Scotty Scheffler to win the Charles Schwab? In my opinion, that answer is Cam Smith at double the price. 8 to 1. I'm taking Cam Smith. I'm off DJ this week. There was an early Bryson numbers at 25 to 1. I did not get it. I was victory lapping Brooks Koepka all day Monday. I missed those prices. I'm therefore out on 14 to 1. Cam Smith is the bet. Cam Smith is going to win LIV DC. Patrick Reed showed up again. He's 16 to 1. Mito 16 to 1. Gooch 18 to 1. Charles Howell is 20 to 1. Harold Varner III is 22 to 1. Here's my next two guys and my last two guys. Sergio Garcia 25 to 1. He played really well and nearly won in Singapore. Went to a playoff there, played awesome at the U.S. Open qualifier. There were some notes on Scott Harrington, I believe, that sent Daniel Rappaport some text messages that Danny put out there, talking about what flushing it of the iron display that Sergio was on. 25 to 1. Sergio is better than Harold Varner, I think. I think Sergio is like equally the player that Taylor Gooch is, so I'll take the added number. And then Uline is a tough one to stomach, but all the numbers point to him, guys. He's up there in birdies. He's up there in greens and reg. He's up there in driving distance. I believe he's actually leading LIV Golf Tulsa in driving distance. Let me see if that's still the case. He is. He's averaging 325 off the tee. That's insane type numbers. And that's over 18 rounds. So he's averaging 8 more yards than Dustin Johnson off the tee. He's averaging nearly 17 more yards than Brooks Koepka off the tee. I don't know how accurate these numbers are. I'd like to know where they're calculated, if they're done via ShotLink. 325 seems pretty wild. 14 yards longer than Bryson. That is tough for me to understand or believe. But the point being is you can't argue the birdies. You can't argue the greens and reg. And he's putting together video game type numbers on the LIV Tour. And I think a win is coming. So 33 to 1. Would I rather have one guy at 18 to 1 or the guy that's putting together all the stats that sort of line up at 33? Uline's my last bet. I'm going to go over and sort of talk through the rest of the board, even though I haven't pulled the trigger on anybody else. Kokrak, 33 to 1. Burmeister, 33 to 1. Tringale, 33. Steele, 33. They kind of just lumped all these players together. A bit of a lazy bookmaking week, in my opinion. Anirban Lahiri, 35. Peters is 35 off a made cut and a decent performance last week. Answer getting all the way up to 40 really drew my attention. Excuse me, but he just hasn't been able to maintain it for 3 straight rounds. I know that he's working hard. We talked to Benji earlier in the year. He seemed to be thinking very positive things about Answer's practice habits, about his form, but it just hasn't come to fruition quite yet. Matthew Wolf is right there at 40 to 1. Brandon Grace, who was obviously in the playoff in Tulsa with DJ and Cam Smith, who showed a bit of a glimpse there, is at 40 to 1. I think could potentially hold some value. In the 50s, Ortiz, Casey, Chikara, Munoz, Leishman, Watson, Mickelson, 66 to 1. I think Phil might bang a LIV Tour event this year. Like, he's going to win one. I don't know if it's this season, but in the next year and a half, so the remainder of this season, which there are 8 events, and then next season, Phil is going to win one. He's really playing strongly in the majors, and there's glimpses of really great, flashy, old school Phil Mickelson stuff, and he's just got a moxie about him winning contention. Like, there's not many guys that we've seen stand up to a Sunday Brooks Koepka when he's in form. I can think of John Rahm at the Masters, and that's it. Like, Harding Park, something was up. He was injured there. He didn't have his best stuff. He kind of had pretty good stuff at Kiowa. Phil just flat out beat him. He's as impressive as anybody when he gets into contention. The bottom of the board, nobody else has a chance. Let's just go ahead and write those guys off. My 3 bets of the week for LIV Golf DC. One of them is going to cash, and that's Cam Smith. He's 8 to 1. Sergio Garcia is 25 to 1, 33 to 1. Peter Uihlein. Those are my guys. There's been a lot of controversy, and Brooks winning seems to bring out the worst in some people on Twitter. You have seen some awful takes this week, as have I. Ignore them. Yeah, we'll have some more great stuff later this week. Check out the Nut Hut. As always, the Tour Junkies Discord is the best Discord channel in all of golf Twitter. Make sure to go check that out. Give them a follow. Give me a follow at Tour Picks while you're out. Thank you for checking out this video. That's 20 minutes on LIV DC. I hope you bang home a winner. I'll be back in a few weeks to cover the next event. I'm out of here. Have a great night. Peace.